Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Adhvaitha Decoding Reality podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to uncover the nature of reality, to understand different dimensions, different layers of this complex, multifaceted reality, and to discover who we truly are. We will explore various concepts and various aspects of this existence in this podcast, and we will talk to various people with an open mind and a curious heart to understand their perspectives and their experiences with reality. All this to decode reality. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Adhvaitha Decoding Reality podcast. And today we have with us Karen Luniw. She started her podcast in 2006, and her podcast was in top 10 in self-help category on iTunes for over 13 years and has accumulated over 20 million downloads in that time. Through her podcast, coaching, and online programs, she has been an executive coach to C suite and ambitious high performers for extreme acceleration of achievement of business, career, and life goals. She has extensively worked with a variety of businesses from solopreneurs to seasoned entrepreneurs and top international sales professionals to Hollywood creatives and even a staff member of the executive office of the President of the United States. Karen has been featured in Huffington Post. She has appeared in Global BC and the Financial Post. She has also written and published a book, Attraction in Action, your how to guide to relationships, money, work, and health, as well as several other journals. So we will learn more about her throughout this podcast. With that, welcome Karen to Advaita Decoding Reality podcast.
Thanks so much, Sujan. This is so wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah, same here. Let's start with what got you here so far. So how did you get to do what you do right now?
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Way back in the 90s, late 90s, before
Hmm.
Google, before Yahoo, before all that stuff, before I started learning. I just knew that there was something that made everything work. I knew there was a mechanism, and so um,
Hmm.
I had been, my husband and I were out and we were shopping, and I found this book. It was called
Hmm.
Maximum Achievement. Sorry, I've got all my books on the
Okay.
sides here. And it was
Okay.
by Brian Tracy. And I was interested in business. And so, but I was also interested in the metaphysical side of things. And I was really surprised that in the book, he started talking about universal laws. And I was just like, I had never heard of universal laws before that. And I was just, and I thought, and that combined with business is like, what? What is that all about? So I just gobbled that book up. But in it was those particular laws, and I wrote them down on little cards. And one of them was the law of attraction. And I started using that. I started kind of practicing with it. And amazing things started to happen, just like these synchronicities and things that I that my husband and I wanted. They just showed up really easily. And I started teaching it. I was in the employment industry and helping people to find work. And so I started teaching them the concept, and a lot of people, some of the people were having great responses. Not everybody. And I think it was just, there's reasons for that now that I understand now that I didn't understand then. And then as it went on, I started my podcast. I was working in a job, and I started the podcast, and because I just thought people need to know about this. And the movie The Secret had just come out, and so the timing was all perfect. So it had just come out, and then I finally figured out how to get a podcast up, because it was not easy back then. That was in
Yeah.
2006, and so it just went from there. And so I started getting clients and left my job about a year later, and from there it just it just blew up, right? So I started coaching business people. That's who I attracted, and really the base of it was law of attraction. I moved into mindset, and then what I'm doing now, which is a little bit different. So, but yeah, that's really how it all happened. It was just I just had this desire to really show or just share this with people, and it was a lot of fun because I would get these emails back saying, "Oh, Karen, thank you so much," from people all over the world, which was so
Yeah.
fun. And because I was living in a small place in Canada, and my podcast I started doing in my closet because that was the best acoustics I could get. So um, and people were just having really great results. They were finding relationships, uh, houses, cars, whatever it is, great jobs. And so that's
Yeah.
really.
Before that, you didn't have any sort of, like before you found this material, were
Mhm.
you a spiritual person or were you into these kinds of teachings? What were you doing before this?
I was into. I knew there was alternative stuff. So, but no, in terms of spiritual teachings, not particularly.
Hmm.
I was kind of more into healing practices. Actually,
Okay.
I found people who were working with magnets and such,
Okay.
so which is funny because of course it's attraction too, right? But
Okay. Yeah.
it's all been about magnetic stuff, and so it yeah, so no, I wasn't particularly a spiritual person. I was not a religious person, and yeah, but it grew out from there. I think probably not long after my one of the first books I read was Conversations with God by Neil Donald
Yeah.
Walsh, and
Mm.
that just blew my
Mm.
mind. So.
So let's start with the basic framework of law of attraction, right? Almost all the people who are listening to this will know this, but let's
Mhm.
start there. So the premises, our thoughts, our feelings, they have a certain, certain energy to them, and they create a certain impact for ourselves and this world. Let's start there.
Sure. Yeah, it was really like attracts like energy attracts like energy. And so
Mm,
and I was listening to Abraham Hicks. Probably a lot of people would
mm,
know Abraham Hicks. And so from there, I'd listened to her, and to me, then as I moved along with it again, it was just really about developing that focus, and was her thoughts or feelings. And I coined a word a long time ago called it was feeling. So it's when you have really highly charged feelings, thoughts and feelings together, that's when things would show up, whether it was wanted or unwanted, like good stuff or bad stuff. Like if you had really negative feelings, then that thing was going to show up in your field, right? It was going to show up in your world. If you had really positive feelings, then again, those things, really good things, would continue to appear. And so I really just moved along with that, because out of that, then actions happen, right? Is that you um, take inspired action, and again, that's things start to happen,
mm.
and so what I would find is most people had a hard time kind of keeping that focus. And so that's what I ended up working with them on the most. It morphed into more mindset, because at
Mm.
that point it was law of attraction still at that point. I mean, it was just new, right? Like people didn't know about it. And it was like, it was just not well known. So for me, I really ended up talking more about mindset, much in the same way.
So the obvious question that comes here is, many, like, millions and millions of people consume these teachings, they read these books, but for many of them it doesn't work. Of course it
Mhm.
works for some, it doesn't work for some others. So what is missing in the traditional law of attraction teachings?
Mhm. Yes, and so, and that was probably my hardest thing, is that I would be able to, I create these amazing things, and then all of a sudden, or attract these amazing things, and then some things they wouldn't work out. And same thing with my clients; they'd have these great results in some things, and then not in others, just like you said. And so, uh, it wasn't until recently I had really gone through a process of I was continuing to look for what was the answer, right? What was the thing? What was that missing piece? And I came across somebody probably about just over 2.5 years ago now, and the concept was about frequency, is that is tapping into a frequency that, and so when you're in a frequency, again, whatever it is that you want, it will show up, because if you're aligning with that, if you are in that same frequency, then you align with it. And it was that at that moment, I just really realized, it was just like, oh, okay, now I can understand. When I look back on the things that didn't show up for me, it was because there was, I call it the trinity of trouble: fear, doubt, and worry. And so when you go into fear, doubt, and worry, you are in a different frequency. And and so that was really that. And again, when I with my clients too, is just we're shifting frequencies, we're kind of shifting in and out of what we want. We get distracted by our outer world, and therefore we tend to base our frequency, or tend to align with what is happening around us, as opposed to really what we want in our heart. So yeah, so that is now, that's how I am working with people now, and that's how I'm moving my life along, is really, that was the missing piece. It really was about frequency. It wasn't attraction. Kind of fits into frequency, but unless you are in the right frequency and aligning with it, just
Yeah.
things don't happen. And I think is that's the missing piece.
Yeah, and we tend to, of course, we read the books, and just spending 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night, and
Mhm.
then living unconsciously throughout the day doesn't work. That
Yeah.
is one of the problems that I faced in my life. Of course, mornings we do affirmations, but then, like, once we get on with our day, our unconscious tendencies begin to, take charge, and that is the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
The next thing that I wanted to discuss was the concept of all frequencies exist right now,
Hmm.
right? Different teachers talk about this in different ways.
Hmm.
Neville Goddard, I think he says creation is already complete. So, what do you have to say about this? And how can we, if so, if all frequencies exist right now, how can one consciously choose a frequency through which he can create his life the way he wants to?
Yeah, it's such an amazing concept, and I think it really goes on the multiple worlds theory, right? Is that
Hmm.
everything exists now. So when we remember that, and
Hmm.
when we remember that the frequency of the thing that we want already exists, and we can start kind of living in that way and tapping into that, or I just say receiving, right? We want to get into that state of receiving that frequency. I also kind of make the distinction between conjuring and downloading. So right now, we are always trying to figure things out. We're always trying to think our way through things. And again, with the people that I mostly work with, they've done really, really well by doing that. And so that's they've been rewarded for thinking, right? And for figuring stuff out. But with frequency, it's not about that. It's really about receiving it. And so it's got really downloading that feeling of, or that frequency and the feeling of it. And when we do that, we have access to it. And when we access that on a consistent basis throughout the day, to start, it starts to become who we are. And like I think we've all, probably most of the people that would be listening to us today, have heard, wherever you go, there you are, or you only get what you are, or who you are being. And that's your frequency. And so to align with that really it takes focus. And I have some particular steps that I walk people through, but really is about being about um, getting into that. I'm gonna, Neville Goddard talks about state, and I think that's a key thing that for a lot of people, and myself included, because Neville Goddard is one of my, one of all his books are, my go tos, or used to be my
Amazing.
go tos. And one of the things that I found with that is that people say it's all about the feelings. So for me, because I'm kind of excitable, and it's just like, well, yeah. So I would imagine having the thing that I want. I was just like, yeah, I've got it, and it's here, and it's so great. But the fact of the matter is that when you are actually in the state of having what you want, it's like I don't get excited about the computer that I have, right? Because I have it. Right. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm in gratitude for it. I really like using it, but I don't
Hmm.
go, yay, there's my computer. I don't come into my office and go, yay, it's here. Right. So I think that is the distinction also that, and where people kind of, um, where it's not clear is that it's not about the state of, oh, I just received it. It's no, it's the state of, I already have it. And what is life like then? And so when we do that, when we're in that state or in that frequency, um, it's a knowing and it's a having. It's just like, it's just normal. And so, yes, it's the feeling of normal, but I have misinterpreted, and I think that's a lot of what's happened for a lot of people is that we've misinterpreted that getting into the feeling of it is like, oh, I'm really excited about it. And and that's not it. I don't that's not particularly what.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very subtle. Like on the surface, it seems like the teachings are telling us that. But then,
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. So the frequency is my frequency is my being, right? My thoughts, feelings, my personality, all together, it is at a frequency right now. That is what
Yeah.
you mean?
Yes, like, if you can think about it, every frequency has is it's like its
Hmm.
own little universe, right? So
Hmm.
if you think about a radio channel or even like Netflix or something, right? Where it's just like, okay, here's we'll just take radio channels to begin with, but the radio channel, you're switching to a radio channel, and in that radio channel, there's different people, there's different songs, there's different people talking, there's advertisers. It's a whole little world unto itself, right? And so, so yes, it's not and it's not even just about us. It's just that there's a frequency of the thing that we want, and in there exists everything. And so,
Hmm.
but yes, it's all those things that you said, and
Hmm.
again, it's that world where that all exists.
Let's put it this way, like
Sure.
I am a frequency right now,
Mhm.
whatever it is, and let's say my desire, what I want, is at a different frequency, right? If I don't have it yet, it is at a different frequency.
Right.
So like what do I have to do to get there?
Right. So that's a great question. So to get to align with that frequency
Hmm.
is, I call it for me, I call it the zap process, which is you go into zero
Okay.
point. You don't always have to do
Okay.
this, but you can just a few moments of just clearing your mind where you're neutral, right? Where you're not, and I say materializing or dematerializing things, right? Or people would say creating or uncreating. And I'm straying away from the word creating now because um, everything's already created. So we're not really
Created.
creating anything, we're accessing it. So to me, it's
Hmm.
like I'm materializing or we're materializing into that timeline or into that frequency. Um, and so to access and to align with that frequency, we need to again just take that moment, or even you could meditate, or you could go into that state of just nothingness for a time, and then from there you activate a frequency. You choose that frequency that you want to move into or to materialize, and at that point it's just allowing yourself to receive that frequency. And so to me, I would say, and what I teach is to ask is have people ask or say to source or God or whatever that higher power is, and say, okay, I am ready to receive the frequency of having a new house, or having the partner of my dreams, or whatever it is, right? Having that great
Hmm.
job, or having X amount of dollars in the bank account. I'm ready to receive that frequency, and then be still, and then just allow that to come in, and just to start to feel that. And what happens is that when you start to allow yourself to feel that in your body first, because that's your closest, when you're feeling that, that's your closest connection to the energy, is when you're feeling it. And it's not you conjuring that feeling. It's not like you going, okay, I think it's going to be like this and it'll feel like this. And it's not that. It's actually just allowing that to download, right? And so
Mm.
when that happens, then from there, it's just expanding that, because what will start to happen is start to there will start to be visuals and maybe sounds and smells and all those other sensory information. It's like it's just kind of data, right? We're downloading the data of that frequency, and so when that starts to happen, we can then expand it. It's like, okay, um, I can imagine these things happen. It's not us visualizing it; it's us receiving those visuals, and the reason for that is it's so much more expansive than what we can even think about, right? What we can even come up with, and
Mm.
so in that receiving process, um, we just stay with that as long as we can, and that will just start to feel that in our body. But then our next thing is really to feel it in our hearts. And then the more that, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, when our heart and our mind come together, that uh, creates that, it starts to create a reality, right? And so, and to me, when we do this, we are materializing, we are connecting, we are aligning with that frequency.
And this frequency need not be one desire, right? It need not be one thing that we want. Like it can be a holistic life for us, like our
Yeah. Yeah.
relationship, health, everything together. It is in
Yes.
a
Yeah.
particular frequency. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I suggest to people to start is actually pick one thing, right? Pick one
Mm.
thing, because then it's kind of easier to
Specific.
imagine, right?
Mm.
But what happens is that when you go into that zap process and you're
Mm.
activating that
Mm.
frequency, it's it those things will start to show up. They'll start to yeah, they'll just start to show up in your mind first, and when we do that, it's just it's magical. And what I realized once I learned this is that for those things that happened so quickly in my life, right, they were just these
Mm.
massive leaps. Like even just the podcast, when I put it out, of course it was good timing, and it was good, maybe it was the right title at the right time, right? But and so I couldn't explain that beyond that for that moment, except that,
Mm.
so I attracted these people were looking for it, and that attracted it. But then I in terms of recreating that, I couldn't recreate that
Mm.
in other things necessarily. But it happened so quickly, I think. And I put my podcast out in the December, and by January I'd had like over 20,000 downloads. And then the next
Oh.
month, it's like these, if you can
Mm.
imagine, it was mind blowing
Mm.
to me, because it's like, if you think about stadiums, where people are watching sports and such, there are 20,000 people in that. It's
Absolutely.
like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, that's how
Yeah.
many people are downloading what I've
Mm.
done. And so to me, it was like I was so much in that frequency of wanting to share the information, and so there were all those people who were tapped into that same frequency, and then found me. So it's easy
Mm.
to say, oh well, it's a marketing thing, the right time, right place, right title, but right image. But it's so much
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah, and I think it always comes like that. It comes at the right time. Those
Yeah.
synchronicities, it always happens at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and
Mm.
again, if you think about frequency again, it's just like, well, of course, because it's all there, right? And so
Mhm.
it's just I've tapped into that, and the other
Mhm.
things where it was just again,
Mm.
I just there was something I tapped into, and just knowing I have so many stories, my own personal stories, but also my clients' stories, where it's just, oh, there was just, you just were able to tap into that, and it happened. And so yeah.
And let's talk about the parallel realities of the self. Let me just explain what I think it is, and like
Sure.
you can, yeah, yeah. So, parallel realities. When I was reading Reality Transurfing, a similar concept, like there are different infinite parallel realities of an individual, in which each of the parallel reality is different from one another,
Mhm.
and based on where we show our attention and based on our being, we choose a reality which is most compatible to us. Is this how it works, or can you explain the parallel realities of the self? Yeah.
So yes, and it's like this book. It's like the Bible. If you look,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you can see that all these are
Oh.
all the
uh,
and there's like, yeah, it's just my that's and that's not where I learned, about frequency or anything like that. But
okay.
yeah, it's
The name of that
the
book is Parallel Realities of the Self. Is it?
parallel universes of here. Let's see if I
Parallel
can get it there.
Universes of Self. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Frederick Dodson. Yeah,
Frederick Dodson.
yeah.
Okay.
I think you can choose any reality, quite honestly. But
Mm,
I think in terms of you mentioned bleed throughs, so everything is happening now. That's the concept of everything is happening now. And of course, we
mm,
used to think that, oh, there's something in the future. This thing is in the future, or this thing is in the past. And what I've come to understand is that our desires are actually bleed throughs from that other universe where we are actually already operating there. Right. There's a me that's in another universe. I mean, a gazillion other universes, but there's another universe. And so, and in there, I'm doing the exact, I'm having the exact experience in my life that I really want to have. There's another one that's having a totally awful experience. Right. And everything in between, right. Every
mm.
possible thing
Combination.
in between. But the ones that make it through, the ideas that make it through, that those desires, those are to me, those are bleed throughs from those other timelines, through those from those other
Oh,
universes. Very same thing. And because I had that I was like, wow, you're right. Of course, that makes sense, right? I have this,
yes.
I have all these different desires. Where do they come from? Not everybody has those same desires, right? But the
Mm,
ones that are closest to us, let's say are
mm,
most, just a kind of the next level for us, are the easier ones to attain for sure, because it doesn't take much of a shift in frequency for us to get to that. On the other hand, the all those kind of worst case scenarios that we're entertaining, the worry, doubt, fear, and those things sometimes come to pass, right? It's like, well, I knew that was going to happen. Well, yes, because you accessed that frequency, you received that frequency, it became part of you. It became, or you became part of it, right? And so, or you merged, however we want to put
mm,
that, but and so it's it really is. I say this to my clients all the time. All problems are a result of focus and frequency, right? So if you're not focused on the right frequency, you're not going to get the things that you want, right?
mm,
So and so it really is continuously that here's my focus. I'm tapping into this. I'm again, I'm zapping, right? And so the 0 point access, or activating the frequency and play, right? So I'm just playing with this frequency. During my regular day, what would it, I'm if I'm this, what does that feel like? What am I doing, right? Um, but that's how I think about it. Is just that those bleed throughs are really us, in a different dimension, or a different universe that is actually doing those things.
and
Um,
like in your mind, do you think these realities actually exist in, like in, actually, by actually I mean, do they physically exist or they subtly exist?
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Right. I mean,
Mm,
I think, I think it's kind of beyond our comprehension, right? Is it
yeah.
existing in a different dimension? Yeah, sure. I guess anything's possible,
Mm,
right? We just don't know.
yeah.
We don't know,
Yeah.
and we don't have that access to the full understanding of how the universe works. But um, regardless, to my because I get asked this by a number of people, and it's just like,
Mm,
I, yes, it could be that there is that me that's doing that, or it's me that's ready, that reality
mm,
exists, but it's not online yet, right? And it has a past and it has a future, but it's not on. Let's using the computer kind of analogies, it's not online yet, right?
mm,
Regardless, it doesn't really matter. How do we use that for what we want to achieve and what we want to do and what
mm,
we want to experience right now? So if that concept works, if receiving that works, And again, if we look back at how we've created our life in the past, or how those amazing things have happened to us in the past, then you'll see that thread is like, oh yeah, we were in that frequency. And so we were very tapped in. So to me, that's just, it's how can we use this? What would be the
Yeah.
most useful way for us to think about this?
Mhm.
And we could spend all day trying to figure it out and still not actually get it right. So,
And what are the limitations to this, right? Because let's say I'm 5'6", I can't compete with 7-foot basketball players.
right.
So even though theoretically there is a parallel reality in which I am 7 feet tall, but
Yeah,
that I can't imagine bringing it here, or it seems impossible. So
right.
what do you think are the limitations of this? Yeah.
Well, I think that's the limitation right there, right?
Mhm.
Is that um and I think if we go into the imagination as reality, so if we can't even imagine it, there's no possible reality. The Frederick Dawson talks about in parallel universes of self that um, you know, that those things, physical changes can be made in an instant, right? And we see that with
Mhm.
multiple personalities, where that
Yeah.
somebody can lose 20 pounds in 3 days because they've changed their personality, like they with that multiple personalities, or they will present with um, a disease, and then they take on that other personality, and that disease goes like in very short period of time. So could you grow to 7 feet tall? Conceivably, but it's just not even within our concept of how the world works, right? So
Mhm.
in that, right away, there is that limitation, is that no, it's not, it would not happen because we can't imagine it. It
Yeah.
doesn't fit
Maybe. Yeah.
with the I could, to me, it's like we've come into this reality with a common set of agreements and rules, let's say, and so
Mhm.
we have lots of play, but there are some things that is just beyond the scope of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and also maybe I think it is the limitation of our mind, because
yes, yeah,
yeah, our podcast and our YouTube channel is more about Indian scriptures, Vedanta, Advaita. I'll talk about this later on. But then there is a book, it's very popular, autobiography of Yogi.
hmm
Yeah, even Steve Jobs used to read it, and there are many books like that where there are extreme examples of yogis in India who used to, walk through walls, who used to float, who used to one there is an instance where a person's hand was cut off, and because of his abilities, he just, it seems he just fixed it right back.
hmm
So
hmm
yeah, maybe, yeah, it seems impossible because maybe it's the limitation of our minds, but then
hmm
the universe itself is, there is no limitation to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, yeah, and there's so many
Mm,
examples of that. It's just like, I don't even, how
mm,
did that even happen? I mean, if you even think about sometimes some things that we see, or we think we see, or we 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 see some occurrence. Like I just think about traffic, right? And if you're in a busy location, and all of a
mm,
sudden it looks like this person is just going to have, like, is going to have an accident, right? It's like, how did that car miss that person or that other car?
yeah.
It's almost like they just went through each other, or just something
Mm,
magical happened, and it just, I don't even know how that happened. And we put it off to, oh no, it's just my perception, I didn't see it right. You kind of do the shake
yeah.
of your head and just like, okay, I didn't really see that. But in fact, I think those things are always happening. And
Yeah.
yeah, I totally
Mm,
agree. I think
yeah.
um yeah, yeah, in our minds, we're not at that level. Maybe we'll never will be, but
Yeah.
most people are not ever going to be at that level where it's like, okay,
Mm.
yeah, I can chop off my hand and reattach it,
Yeah.
right, and as
Yeah.
if nothing happened.
And what is the role of action in law of attraction, right? What role does action play?
hmm um so Um, so forgive me, because I don't refer to law of attraction at all anymore, just because
Hmm.
it is so 3D oriented, like in 3D, in the
Mm,
three, just in the reality world
mm,
where again, I tend to again go over to the frequency side and more from an internal perspective. But action, again, same kind of thing. For most people, it is necessary. It's like, well, I've got to do something in order for something to happen.
mm,
And I bet every one of us has had an instance where there was something, we had some desire, and it could have been just really small or it could have been bigger, and we had dwelled on it for a bit, and it just came to fruition. We really didn't have a whole lot to do with it, right? um
mm,
so that conceivably is possible. But to me, for most people, what makes it easier is that we just take actions, and it's inspired action. So again, when we're downloading and receiving that frequency of the reality that we want to be in, then the next thing is, okay, what am I compelled to do? What do I feel drawn to do? What's it's like following the energy. What really is exciting to me? What is intriguing me? Like again, going back to the podcast so long ago, it's just I could not do it. I was just compelled. It was just like, I've got to do this. And this was way very early on in podcasting. And I just like, okay, now I've got to learn it. I've got to figure it. I traveled to a different city to go and learn about it from some of the first people who were teaching about podcasts. And so to me, that's how action is. It's about inspired. It's just like, oh, I
mm.
must do this. I feel like this is the next step, or this just feels interesting to me. And so that's
Yeah.
how the action comes into play.
And what's your advice for people who are stuck in a negative cycle, right? Like we know how this works. People who grow, once they understand this, people who are positive in nature, they keep on growing. But at the same time, this law that there is, it also takes someone in a downward spiral who don't understand this. So for someone who is stuck there in
Mhm.
a lot of negativity, what would you advise them to do?
I think the first thing is to remember that in every moment, all you can just shift. I uh, teach a process. It's so simple. It's just stop, pivot, focus, feel. Right. So
Mm,
it's just realizing I'm feeling negative. I just need to
mm,
stop,
mm,
pivot. So it's just like, okay, I'm focused on this really negative thing. And now, I'm sorry, now I'm looking at,
mm,
it looks like I'm
mm,
looking at you in the video here, but it's like, okay, I'm focused on this really negative thing. And so
mm,
now I want to stop realizing this. And then I want to pivot and focus on the really positive things, or the thing that I want, right? Or just even something that's more neutral. And then you focus on that, and then you feel. And you feel it's like, okay, yeah, that would be really good. Or I've just shifted. I'm
mm,
shifted into just a neutrality. Even if you just do that, it's so much better. But if we can just so if we just know that in any moment we can change the course of our actions. Every choice is like another movement towards the timeline that we're wanting to move towards, or the reality that we're wanting to move towards. I have a process also. People are really negative, and there's just like this. There can have been an energy of our beliefs or stories that we've been telling ourselves for a very long time that gets stuck in our field, and so that's kind of one of my it's one of my superpowers, is really just being
mm,
able to go in and shift and change that energy and
yeah,
release it. So it's a frequency release and activation.
okay,
So I release that frequency of that energy that's in their field, and then
mm,
activate the one that they actually truly want to have instead.
mm,
But really, the for people who are just feeling negative and feel like, oh, I'm spiraling down, just remember, in any moment you can stop and just
yeah,
listen to something that inspires you, with or do something that just you really like to do, or um yeah, I mean, or just play some music, or hang out with friends. being gratitude. I mean, as soon as you can get into that state of just of gratitude, the
mm,
frequency of gratitude, and just being thankful for the things that you do have that are really that are good. And sometimes it's a stretch, right? For some people that's
yeah.
just like, like my life is such crap. There's nothing
Yeah.
I can't be grateful for anything, right? That's not
Mm,
true. And so there's something, right? You have some
mm,
things. There are some people
mm,
around you that care about you. um,
mm,
and regardless, the sun is going to come up today. So that's really, be grateful for
mm.
that, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And the biggest challenge, right, for most people, and even what I faced, was not understanding this. Like, of course, when we read it, we understand this. But to maintain a frequency which is different than our default frequency, whether it is for a person who is stuck in a negative cycle, of course, at momentarily they can pivot, but then maintaining that positivity or maintaining that frequency throughout the day, how can one do it?
Recently, I think there's a process. It's a centering exercise that I
Huh.
think is really really powerful, where you become aware of, you just come into the present moment, and really the
Yeah.
moment that you can do that, the more you can center yourself and then connect. To me, I add that in.
Mm,
It's a self inquiry process too,
mm,
and I put those two together on an ongoing basis, where it's just I center is like, okay, I'm being aware of my thoughts. I am being aware of my, what's going on around me. I'm feeling of how I'm feeling in my body, and just again, very, very much getting into the present moment. And then there's the thoughts, or the thinker of the thoughts, and then the observer. And so,
witness of. Yeah.
what's that?
We call it in Vedanta, we call it witness, who is
Oh, okay.
witnessing everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Witnessing. Yes.
Yeah.
So when you're witnessing, and then just stopping and say, okay, so what's the next thought? And this is the thing that I think is so very cool, because when you say, what's the next
Mm,
thought, it's just like everything kind of goes blank, which makes
yeah.
me really think maybe we are AI. Because I think we're constantly being prompted by our outer world. And so,
Yeah.
and then we're, that creates all these thoughts. But if we stop, it's like, okay, what's the next thought? There's your moment,
Mm,
for a moment, or maybe a few moments. And if you can practice it for longer, that's kind of almost where you can get to that, start
yeah.
to access that 0 point, or at least neutrality. And then from there, the next step is, who are you? Who am I? And to me, it's like, I am, right? So
Mm,
when you get to that state, it's just like, oh, I am. And you're accessing your power, you're accessing source, you're connecting to source. From there, it's very powerful. But if you just do the centering, where you're just getting present, and you can do that once an hour for, during your
yeah.
waking hours, changes everything.
Yeah. I found this in, before this, I found this in reality transurfing, the
Hmm.
centering method. Yeah, yeah. He talks about watching your inner screen and the outer screen.
Okay.
So what is happening inside and what is happening outside, and then
Yeah.
you'll come to the stillness. Now, I wanted to ask about how can one navigate between being and doing, right? Like, of course, we need to be grateful for what we have, and we need to be still, we need to be content with whatever we have. At the same time, we crave change, we desire different things. So they seem like they both are opposites of each other, the gratitude and craving and desiring something else. So how can one balance it, and how can one navigate that?
That's a great question. Obviously,
No
I
problem.
think they go in. I think they go hand in hand, right? It's again, there's the things that we already have and the things that we want to have, kind of opposite side, or two sides of the same
Mhm.
coin, right? I think it's just being grateful. And I think that when we come to the understanding that, again, there's a frequency for everything that we desire, that we know that,
Mm,
it, to me,
mm,
it's just like a game then, right? It's just like this
mm,
intrigue of, oh no, there's the desire, that it's showing me that it's already there. The thing that I want is already, it already exists. I just need to align with this, right? And then from there, life just becomes quite, an amazing thing, because, oh, that's the next thing. And it's like you get to appreciate that and hang out in it for a while. And now it's just like it's natural for us to then desire the next thing, right? Unfortunately, in our, the world that we live in now, that's kind of, we don't necessarily, a lot of people don't go for kind of like the bigger things, the bigger experiences that they can have in their life. It's more about the consumerism. Oh, it's like, I want to buy that TV, or I want to get that car, and that's all okay too, right? It's, again, to me, it's all about the experiences that we can have. But I think once we understand that, no, it is accessible to us. If that desire, it's already showing, it's bleeding through from that timeline. It's just showing that, oh yeah, I exist, that exists, I exist there. And so what's my next step to align with it? And
Yeah.
but which allows you also to still be grateful for where you are. It's just, now I'm just gonna move over here, right?
Yeah. And here I'll take 2 minutes to explain to you the teachings of Vedanta, which,
Hmm.
me personally, from the last decade, I started with, Tony Robbins, and then The Secret, then Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, reality transurfing. So I've gone through so many teachers and
Yeah.
teachings. And eventually I found the teachings of the ancient Upanishads, if you've heard of them. They
Hmm.
are more than 10,000 years old. They don't have anything to do with law, this manifestation per se, but they
Hmm.
explain to us the nature of reality. You are talking about the I am, right? The
Hmm.
witness of everything. So
Hmm.
the basic premise of Vedanta is that there is absolute non-dualism. So the duality that we see
Hmm.
only appears to exist, but
Hmm.
in reality there is
Hmm.
pure consciousness alone, which has manifested itself in infinite number of ways,
Hmm.
and each of us are different masks that god or that infinite consciousness is
Hmm.
wearing, and it is experiencing itself in a
Hmm.
universe that it has created for itself
Hmm.
through various people, animals, birds. So everything is source itself.
Right.
Now the moment we identify ourselves with this body and mind, we are
Hmm.
stuck, we are limited, because
Hmm.
we think we are this flesh, blood and bones.
Right.
So that is when it is difficult to manifest, it is difficult to create something or do whatever it is, because we are using the limited apparatus of the body and mind. Instead of this, if we identify ourselves as the infinite consciousness, like you said earlier, so that is when all of this becomes easy. It becomes like a game that,
Hmm.
and also we holistically see what is good for society as a whole. So
Hmm.
yeah, that is the basic premise of Vedanta, the
Hmm.
teachings of from ancient India. So once
Hmm.
I found this teaching, right, and once I understood this, first of all,
Hmm.
my life changed a lot. And then after understanding this, everything else started making sense, because the teachings of Secret by themselves,
Hmm.
the Secret and the typical law of attraction teachings,
Hmm.
they don't talk about this, right? They don't talk
Hmm.
about universal consciousness,
No.
oneness. So it is empowering the ego. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is what I wanted to ask, because for a typical person who doesn't understand this universal oneness and consciousness, for them, getting the teachings on manifestation or the Secret is like empowering their ego. The desires that they have is may not be truly theirs, right?
Hmm.
Many
Hmm.
desires that I had in the past, I don't want it now. So maybe at that time, because of my ego, I wanted something.
Hmm.
So how would one differentiate a desire that is coming from the place of ego, or from the place of a deep purpose and from the place of pure consciousness?
That's a great question. So, I think, it's those things that we just feel, and everything you've just said is really very. That's exactly. it's exactly how the premise of that I work with. It's just the words are different, or the
Yeah,
concepts are just
absolutely.
how I do
Correct.
it is just a little bit different. So
Mm,
um,
mm,
I think that look, I think we're giving gifts, right? We all have our
mm,
gifts, and I so many of us deny them, right? We just think, well, no, who
mm,
am I to do this? I have this thing that's wanting to come through, and it doesn't feel right, right? It doesn't feel like
mm,
that's not who I am, right? And I think, but it's still present. And to me, if it's one of those things that continues to be there despite you, or just say, that I don't even know why that's coming up for me, or that's not, that's beyond anything. To me, that pure source coming through. That is
mm.
source wanting to know itself, right?
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of kind of like the earthly everyday desires, most of those are connected to ego. But on the flip side of that, there are just things that I believe we're here to experience, right? And so
Mm,
getting another, getting a 75-inch TV because I only have a 55-inch TV, that's probably very much ego, right? So, but
yeah.
if it is,
But even
but
that, even there's nothing wrong in that, right? Like
no,
this
no, no,
technically.
no. It's like, hey, just have fun. That's
Yeah.
part of this whole experience. Um,
Mm,
I think that it's questioning. It's continue to question. Why do I want that? Is that what I want, or is that what I think I should want? Is that what society is, keeps putting up in my face? That's something that I want. I'll give an
mm,
example. Um, a long, quite a long time ago, we lived in a place, it was Victoria, BC, and there in the inner harbor there would be these big yachts that would come in and they would park themselves there, and so my husband and I would go down and we'd go for a Sunday walk, and then we'd just go and hang out or sit down, and you just see all these kind of cool things. And so I just said to Jeff, I said, I want a yacht. Right.
mm.
It's like, okay, yeah, I want a yacht. And so I started thinking, okay, that would be a cool thing. And then, just
Mm,
trying to go through into the law of attraction, because that's where I was at that point. And
mm,
then there was a day I kind of thought, wait a minute, I don't really like, why would I don't want to be out, on the water, like in the ocean. Like that's the last thing I
mm,
want to do, right? I'm not a water person. I like to be by the water, not necessarily on it or in it. So,
mm,
but I like to be by it. But and I was thinking, it was like, well, there's all these people that you could see, all these people that were working there. It's like, okay, it's just, there's a lot of people there. So even if I'm on my yacht with my husband and we're friends, there's going to be lots of other people, which I don't really want either, right? And
mm,
so there was just this moment, was like, oh, I thought I wanted that, but I really
mhm,
didn't. It was just something that, okay, with that would just show that I'm rich and powerful and whatever. But I think when you start to really spend some moments to look at, really delve in, why is it that I want this? Is this something that I really do want, or is this something that
mm.
I think, is going to give me, you know, status, or people are
Yeah.
going to look at me differently? Or, it's I'm doing that because I think I'm going to get something, as opposed to just enjoying the experience. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that
Yeah.
answers the question, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
And yeah, like you said, there's nothing wrong in that, but staying
no,
at that place throughout your life, not evolving beyond that is a loss. That's all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But then you get to come back.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you have to say about the nature of mind in all this? The this conscious mind, subconscious mind. So a lot of stuff is happening at the subconscious level, right? I think
Hmm.
lot of stuff is there.
Hmm.
So that is where we have to go to take account of our frequency.
Yeah, I mean, so the subconscious mind is, I mean, we have like, it's estimated 60,000 thoughts a day,
Mm,
and our subconscious mind processes about, I think it's like 400 billion bits of information per second.
mm,
Our conscious mind is like 2,000 bits, of information per second. So our subconscious mind is constantly processing all kinds of stuff,
mm,
and only what makes it up to our conscious mind is what we focus on. So
mm,
how we use this, yeah, to me is like, okay, what is it that's going to help me in my life, in my daily life,
mm,
right? So it
mm,
really always comes down to focus, but
mm,
how we connect in with the I am or source is through our subconscious mind.
mm,
So meditating, take some time to be quiet, to connect in with 0 point. That is that most, I think those things are very useful because that grounds you, or
mm,
again allows you to be able to listen or to witness or to get those messages
mm.
from source that will take you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Was that actually what you asked?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask the importance of subconscious mind, and how can this teaching that you're
Mhm.
telling us, how can we take this to the subconscious mind, right? Like right now we are listening and our conscious mind is listening. Do you suggest any practices through which one can make this a habit?
Again, that I do with my clients is really every morning is if you can get up and frack yourself, which is when you do a frequency release. So you
Okay.
just pay attention to what is the things, what are kind of the negative things that are coming up for me,
Mm, mm,
and release those, right? And so
mm,
there's all kinds of clearing processes out there. Mine is, I've got
mm,
my own, and so the
mm.
more that you can release that, if at night before you go to bed and first thing in the morning, if anything comes up, because sometimes we have bad dreams, and there's just, so we
Yeah.
release that and then we activate the frequency that we want. So it's choosing what is it that we're going to focus on today, and
Mm,
then connecting in with that frequency. So 0 point, so zap, so 0 point,
mm,
activate the frequency and just play with that during the day. To me, then it's connecting in through that day through centering,
mm,
and those things are kind of like the techniques. But
mm.
other than that, it's just gratitude. It's really just being in gratitude and going through your day. Though that gratitude alone will reprogram your subconscious
Yeah.
into a very different state than we generally are, right? Because again, we're so focused on the outer world, what's
Mm.
going on, what is my next step, who's thinking this, who's doing what, and it's not necessarily getting us where we want to be.
And what do you think is the importance of meditation and all this? Do you do meditation every day?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Mm,
And not as regularly as I would like to, but yes, taking those
mm,
moments for silence and moving into silence, I think is absolutely critical,
mm,
to again being able to access our connection to source,
mm.
right? And so
Yeah.
and actually, I say hear it because that's really how it comes in for me, right? It's like,
Mm,
I hear those, or those answers, or those messages that come through. It's like, okay, go this way, do this, but to me, that just allows you to be more present and, yeah,
yeah.
witness what is around you that will help you to lead a much happier inflow life.
Yeah, and especially for a person like me, like I do meditations every day,
Hmm.
and those moments are really, really important for me because
Hmm.
my mind is very active. Like I keep
Hmm.
thinking, thinking. You know that.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. So that moments, at least half an hour to 45 minutes when I sit by myself, at least at that moment, the mind is
Mhm.
still, so it gets some rest. Yeah. So
Yeah,
those moments are
yeah,
important for me. Yeah.
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 Well, and that's a great thing, because to bring up, because I think we're trying to conjure things, we're trying to figure things out on an ongoing basis, and so which
Mm,
means we're trying to control things
mm,
constantly. And again, that gets us so far, but then the more
mm,
that we can actually, again, listen, which meditation allows you to actually be more present and witness
mm.
and listen,
Yeah.
that you stopped controlling, you stopped trying to control and figure everything out, because
Yeah.
that just makes things it take longer to achieve.
And which is your favorite book, and who is your favorite teacher in all this?
At this moment, it's the Parallel Universes of Self, from
Okay.
Frederick Dodson. That is
Okay.
that is my that is my absolute favorite
Favorite
book at this
book.
moment.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay. Okay.
and it's been for a while. But
Mm,
other than that, there's a
mm,
Neville Goddard book. I'm just looking at it over here. It's Your
mm,
Inner Conversations Are Creating Your World, and
mm.
those are my go-tos on a consistent basis, and they lift me up. And even
Yeah.
though I could almost probably recite them, by just by my mind these days,
Mm,
it's just those moments where I'll before I go to sleep, I'll open a book and I'll just and because I've got a gazillion underlines on each of the pages
yeah.
too, and I'll just look and it's like, oh yeah, right. It's just a
Mm,
reminder. And again, I teach this stuff every day.
mm.
I'm constantly answering questions, and I still need that input for myself. So it's a great input for me.
When it comes to especially money, right? There are a lot of blocks and there are a lot of beliefs that one has.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is an issue that is relevant for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, how do you address this when it comes to money blocks?
Hmm. Typically, what I do is I actually clear people. I'll do
Mm,
a frac session with them, or many flat
okay.
frac sessions with them, to
How long
release
will,
that.
will it take typically?
An actual frac can take like 15-20 minutes. Some, uh,
Mm,
and they can be so powerful. They can release, um, in fact, sometimes
mm.
generations of
Oh.
energy
Mhm,
of those
mm,
beliefs.
mhm,
And or certainly decades that people have been ruminating
mm,
about whatever their issues are. But
mm.
yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so I'll clear on that. That's where I go first.
Okay.
And uh, I think also just teaching the concept that money is just energy, and it is going
Mm,
to go. It's going to just make you more of whoever you are. It's just going to
mm,
follow the frequency of wherever
mm,
you are at. So if you're a great person and
mm,
you have good intentions, because I think that's a worry for people. It's like, well, if I have all this money, then I'm going to be a bad person, or
mm,
there's bad things are going to happen, and
mm,
whatever it is, and because they associate money with bad things. And so it's like, no, it's really it's just an energy, and it's just going to make you more of who you already are. And if it'll allow
mm,
you to do great things, if you're a good person. If you're a bad person, yeah, it's probably you're
mm.
gonna do bad things with it. So yeah.
Yeah. So, typically with your client, right? Let's say, imagine a 35 to 40-year-old individual who is a professional or an entrepreneur who is, struggling with money with his business. So, what would be the typical journey that you would take that person?
Sure. So probably again, one of the first things I do with people
Mm,
is and it's not like I'm looking for problems. It's just like there's an energy. There's something that most people, when they
mm,
come, they say like, there's something that's holding me back. I know
mm,
I've done all this stuff. I'm really good at what I do, and I've reached a
mm,
certain level, but I can't go further, right? I can't. It's like
mm,
new level, new devil, right? And I
mm,
can't get
mm,
past that. So
mm,
I'll just start clearing them on that particular
mm,
whatever that is, whatever that energy is, whatever that belief or
mm,
story is.
mm,
And then what I also do is I'm teaching them about frequency and about accessing that frequency and what to do, and that
mm,
process of allowing
mm,
that frequency, receiving that frequency, rather than trying to, you know, doing visualization, and affirmations and those kinds of things, which for a lot of people just, it
mm,
do they work? Yes.
mm.
It just takes a long time.
Yeah.
And to me, I like things to go really quickly, right? So, I
Mm,
work with people who just like, okay, I don't have a lot of time. I'm busy. I want to achieve this thing, or I want to get through this quickly. So, most people have a misconception about time, and so they say it's going to take a long time. I've had this thing for such a long time. I've had this issue for such a long time. It's going
mm,
to take just as long or longer to get rid of it. It's like, no, that's not true at all. So, but again, it's really about connecting them in with that frequency, and teaching them how to access that.
okay. And for those who are listening, what can they do, right? Like any process, any methods that you can teach them so that they can start living this knowledge and start transforming their lives? Yeah.
Right. I think at a very, very basic level, and
Mm,
I think I've mentioned this already, is just being
mm,
gratitude. And for the thing that it is that you want, that your desire is, really understand that it already exists. You already exist with it. And so fall in love with that idea, fall in love with it, just fall in love with it. Like
mm,
how amazing it is to be in that space, right? But again, meditating, just taking that time in the morning, just going into a neutral zone, centering on a as often as you can during the day. Those things will start to shift you. They'll just
mm,
allow the frequency will start to come in, right? It'll start to show up, right? So it's just
mm,
what I find again is that when we get rid of just the kind of like the junk, that just like the energy, those lower level energies and frequencies of our beliefs and stories, when we get rid of those, and like Abraham Hicks, it's like the cork rises to the top, and that's really what
yeah.
happens, right?
Mm,
And that's why my clients just really do get such quick results often, is that they just, when we get rid of that negative stuff that's
mm,
been holding them back, those stories and those beliefs, and again just the energy,
mm,
I just believe that the energy gets stuck in our field, and sometimes again it's ours, or it can be generational, right? And
yeah.
so or
Yeah.
even past lives, right? And which are
Yeah.
just,
In
to me, just
Hinduism,
different.
yeah, we call it karma, the from thousands of years of evolution.
Right.
Yeah. That.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
And,
when we
uh,
eliminate that, then it's mind boggling.
coming to the last question for today, if you had to explain whatever you have learned throughout your life, through all the books, all the teachers, in a few sentences, what would you say about the nature of reality?
Right.
Hmm.
That's just a little question. um, uh, really, that is magical. The nature of
Mhm.
reality is really magical, but I think it's also very, very organized. To me, it's this. It's. I mean, I have a scientific mind, where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, that it's orderly, right? So to me, it's very
Mhm.
orderly, um, and it's orderly and magical. So it's really just tapping into that. And
Yeah.
the more that we can be in that state of, I can just to say, as happy a state as possible, right? Or as positive, or as a higher level, state as possible. Those things, if you just kind of believe in those miracles happening, that they're are everyday miracles. So, um, and just to have
Mm.
fun with that, right?
Yeah.
That's Yeah, that to me,
Yeah.
that's the nature of reality, is just is fun.
Magical.
Yeah, and magical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And where can one find you, Karen? Like, which would be the best place for someone to consult you or contact you?
Sure. So my website is called liveanolimitlife.com, but I would also go to liveanolomitslife.com/links, because then that gives you
Mm.
links really easily to everything that I have available. I've got an app, also
Okay.
called the No Limits Life, and it's
Okay.
free, and it's, you can
Okay.
get it on any device, and
Mm.
I interview my mentor about frequency, and so it's pretty cool. But on
Okay.
there again, there's my YouTube, there's Instagram, and my website, and my course, my new course called Activating You 3.0. So
Okay.
and there's a new one coming out in the new year, for business, for specifically for
Okay.
business people. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming to this podcast. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll do this again sometime. We'll go into greater depth.
That would be great. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.